I said, sorry buddy, you can't be on the computers right now. And he just started punching wildly into the computer, tried to smash the keyboard and tried to throw it at me. As he was coming out of the room, he threw a mad punch right at my face.
Did you know that 80% of Australian teachers experience one or all of three types of bullying? That's student on teacher, parents on teacher, and teacher on teacher. Now today I'm at the house of Angela, a passionate teacher who eventually had to give up her job because of bullying.
I am.
How are you?
Oh. I always wanted to be a high school teacher. I accepted the scholarship and I worked for 200 days while I studied to actually get a handle on what it was that I wanted to teach. I am an English history teacher. As a teacher, I taught most of the humanities, so I just always wanted to teach a specific subject, and that's where those things align.
So tell me, what are some of the public perceptions of teachers out there that you can debunk?
I don't think there's a lot of empathy at the moment for teachers because there's a mythology in our society that we have long holidays, short working days, easy, comfortable conditions. We all go to school, we see our teachers, you know, standing in the playground with their coffee and chatting to kids, and it all looks as though it's very simple. But recent survey results have demonstrated over and over that teachers are working much longer hours than the general population. Our wages are only just sort of holding up. Wages are not compensating for the amount of time out of class time we're putting in.
Now you were talking about the three types of bullying that have been recognised: student on teacher, parent on teacher, and teacher on teacher, but you have experienced two out of the three.
I know that I've copped my share of abuse. I know I've copped some violence a lot of the times, and quite often I would say a lot of the blow-ups, when usually a student would have to be removed, it would be a violent outburst, whether they threw something at you or somebody else, or had a fight, or, you know, usually on their way out they'd be threatening to get someone to bash you, or they're going to bash your head in, or, you know, kill you, or whatever. An example, I know it's in my statement, there was an 18-year-old boy. He just started punching wildly into the computer, tried to smash the keyboard and tried to throw it at me. As he was coming out of the room, he threw a mad punch right at my face. I did tell my principal and the head caseworker at the time, but there was no actual concern that an 18-year-old man who was over 6 foot just threw a punch at my head and smashed a brand new computer. And yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the latter part of it, the teacher on teacher?
With the workplace bullying, teacher on teacher, I was powerless the whole time. One example would be, I was so relieved to find that we're getting a head teacher because we didn't have one before. When he first came, he was funny and friendly and quirky, and I thought, oh great, a bloke with a sense of humour. But I stepped in every trap that he set, pretty much, yeah. He just would make out like he was helping you all of the time while he's putting your head further underwater. So he would increase the workload, or he'd find out what was really important to me and then ruin it.
Workplace bullying is, it's like domestic violence. The only difference is that there is no weapon. They've got hands around your throat, but they don't squeeze. They don't need to. Bullying, it's a fluffy word for me. I don't like it. I'm offended by it. Bullying conjures up, you know, little kids in the schoolyard pulling each other's pigtails, tripping each other over, calling names. It's way more overt than that, and more importantly, it's covert.
You're making this sound so dramatic. Is it as dramatic as...
I wish that it wasn't as dramatic, but believe me, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of teachers that this is happening to in the workplace.
He cut me out of emails for audits for the government. Then he abused me quite soundly in front of students. I'm not really easily intimidated, but at the same time that man has your career in your hands, or your job and your livelihood, and you can't actually deal with it how you would normally probably deal with it. I just got very isolated and I didn't want to encounter him, so I stayed in my room and just got everything ready from there.
So health-wise, how was this affecting you?
Well, I started losing a lot of hair and started my hands shake. I would burst into tears, not sleep, but then I started getting reflux and felt like I was getting crushed and I couldn't breathe a lot. Ultimately, I got told that if I didn't find a way to work with him, that I had to resign. And I left and I started shaking and then I started crying and I couldn't believe it. Like I don't think they can understand how hard I worked and how dedicated I was, and I don't think they could understand how much of my heart they just smashed.
The key thing about traumatic stress injuries is it's the trauma load that people experience, and people will often think that teaching isn't associated with trauma load as it is in other areas, but that's just not the case. There's an enormous amount of trauma that teachers can be exposed to, and when that trauma is combined with a non-supportive workplace, people's ability to be resilient to it can crumble.
I couldn't go and see the kids mainly because I would malfunction, and yeah, that broke my heart because I had built relationships and trust, and I was just another person that let them down and left. Others left because of him, but just didn't have to go as far as me, self-destruct before they left. That's a lot of lives to say this man is dangerous. Now I know it's a blood sport. I don't feel that I can do that anymore because it was my life. I'd get in my car after work and the kids, my actual biological children, would say to me, "How are your kids today, Mum?" They understood that it served a need in me. It hopefully served a need in the kids. I'm desperately sorry about the kids that I didn't get to reach because I was thwarted in my effort. But yeah, I feel most of the time that he took everything that was good, and I don't know, killed the joy.
For those that see this and go, "That's me," how do they go about finding help?
Join the Bully Teacher Support Network, because you have to have a lot of people fighting to actually create a change.
Angela, I was really excited about doing this interview with you because I teach part-time. And I think the thing is that you've still got so much to offer. And your students, are blessed because you had them in your lives. And I think that you've sowed enough seeds that they will benefit from you. It isn't about now when you placed it in the ground. It's about when you come back and see, what's growing there. So I want to thank you, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds for you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.